This video is about happiness. Specifically, this is the introduction to my full-length premium program, 7 Steps to Happiness. In this video, I'm going to be talking to you about how the study of spirituality and learning the technology of identifying and clearing subconscious blocks can help you to be happier every moment of every day for the whole rest of your life. So if you're interested, keep watching. You're in the right place. I am Brent Phillips. I am the author of this program, and I'm going to talk to you for just a couple minutes before we get into the meat of it. So a couple things I want you to know. First of all, I am a software engineer and a scientist, right? I never meant to be a woo-woo person. I'll talk more a little later about my story, but I experienced a horrific life meltdown in my 20s and met a healer and experienced a miracle that gave me my life back. And I've spent the last 20 plus years devoting all this big brain of science and engineering to understanding the masters, reverse engineering, energy healing, higher consciousness, law of attraction, prayer, these sorts of things, right? With the goal of creating a simple, no-nonsense system of powerful tools that regular people just like you and me can use to change our lives. This specifically is my major product release, 7 Steps to Happiness. And I want to talk to you for just a couple minutes about what it is and how you can get the most value out of it. Remember, this is the introduction to the program. So if you're here, great. This is the thing you want to watch first, right? After you finish this, I'm going to be releasing to my YouTube channel all 7 steps over the next 7 weeks, 1 a week. And you're going to be getting the full uncut versions of all 7 steps right here on YouTube. So make sure you click like and subscribe if you haven't already. Take a moment, smash that button, right? Hit the little bell so you get notifications. Awesome. Very cool. And I wanted to talk to you just a little bit about what this program is and how you can get the most value out of it. So this is, again, the introduction to 7 Steps to Happiness. This is a full-length premium program, meaning for me, I have not released anything in over 4 years. This is it. It took me over 4 years and a small fortune to create this. And my major programs, including this one, are always divided into 2 halves. Half for the conscious mind, half for the subconscious mind. Why? That's what works. If you only address the conscious mind, your results won't be as good. You'll get some, but they'll be less, right? If you only address the subconscious mind, you'll get some results, but not as much. I want to do both. So we have half the program, which is lectures. That's all the content for your conscious mind. Ideas, paradigms, tricks, tips, secrets, solutions, processes, right? All that's in the conscious piece. The second half of the program is for the subconscious. They have encoded subconscious block clearings. I have a really cool technology I've developed called the Formula for Miracles technology. It's a patent pending process of encoding audios so they will actually clear subconscious blocks just by listening. Really cool technology. And so what you're getting right here on YouTube is all 7 steps, the lecture programs uncut for free. And here's how it worked. I was planning on releasing this through your typical online funnel, right? I was going to build a webinar and a sales page and emails and chatbots and Facebook ads and all that stuff, right? That's a part of my business. And this is my only major release in over 4 years. So this is a big deal to me. But when I was going to release it, I decided to change course. I'm not going to sell it through a funnel for $400. I'm going to give you over half of it for free through YouTube. And if you really like what you're getting for free, I think it would be awesome if you want to buy the rest of it, but no pressure, right? So you're getting all 7 steps, all the lectures, uncut, everything for the conscious mind right here for free. This is the introduction, right? Listen to this first. After this, I'm going to be releasing all 7 steps, 1 video a week. And you will get all of it, right? All 7 steps, everything for the conscious mind. What I'm not giving you for free on YouTube is the second half of the program, which is for the subconscious. Specifically, they are subconscious clearing programs created with an audio technology. It's a patent pending process I call the Formula for Miracles technology. And it's this really cool technique I developed where I can clear your subconscious blocks just by having you listen to audios. So that is not included here because there's a lot more setup and training required. If you enjoy the free part and you want to get the full program, that would be awesome. I would greatly appreciate it. I think you'll love it. It also has some other bonuses like the trauma clearing program you can use, a lot of other cool stuff. It's got copies of my ebooks, trial coupons for my members program, lots of cool stuff. But don't worry about that. If you ever decide you want to check out the full version, just go to the description. There it is. So last thing I want to tell you before we jump into it is that this was originally developed as an audio program. And so we have little videos I've made for the beginning and the end, like I'm talking to you right now. This is going to go away in a minute. The majority of the intro and the 7 steps is an audio program. That's how I developed it, right? But I'm going to put something here for you to look at. So you'll see some static slides and some stock footage. Just know there's not much to see. It's meant to listen to. So if you want to watch, that's fine. But if you're just listening, if you're on a walk, riding the bike at the gym, whatever, that's fine. It's intended just to listen to. All right, so that's all I got to say for right now. Would love it if you let me know feedback. What do you think of this? Is this helping you? Are you learning something? Are you becoming happier? Let me know in the comments. I'm going to strive to personally respond to every single comment. So here we go. This is the introduction to 7 Steps to Happiness. Hello, I'm Brent Michael Phillips, and welcome back to 7 Steps to Happiness. This is our last lecture presentation program, number 7, where we're going to talk about true happiness from awakening to enlightenment, how to get there from here. Because this is a lecture presentation program, there are no special instructions. Listen as you like, get comfortable, and dig in. There is a companion to this, the block clearing program number 7, which does use the formula for miracles and codings to make direct shifts in your subconscious mind. So, how do we get there from here? You may remember earlier in the program we talked about how most of the emotions we experience aren't real feelings. Our emotions are fabricated as chemistry in our brains, as directed by the belief systems of the mind. In other words, things happen, the subconscious automatically and reflexively gives it meaning, and then our brain produces chemicals based on the meaning we give it. Now, you may have heard that there's many different religious and spiritual traditions that have been telling us for centuries, if not millennia, that we are meant to be happy, to live in joy, that the essence of God, of life, of spirit, of source of the universe is love. In fact, Candace Pert, who is the scientist who revealed the underlying physiology and chemistry of feeling in her book, Molecules of Emotion, found that we humans are actually designed and engineered to be happy. Who would have thought? Because most of us experience exactly the opposite in life. Most of us experience so much more struggle, insufficiency, lack, pain, loss, and other forms of unhappiness. My father used to like to say, life is 99% misery, but we endure it for the other 1%. We also know that the vast majority of the so-called negative things we experience are not these real feelings. They're instead synthesized emotion that's created in the brain based on the instructions from the subconscious mind. And if you're really stuck in your head, what will happen is your mind takes you out of the present into the future or the past. At best, this results in a temporary happiness achieved through psychological inflation. And at worst, it will make you miserable and depressed, possibly resulting in not just years, but decades of misery, maybe even mental illness, or in extreme cases, even attempted suicide. By contrast, if you can be fully present and live in the now, I think you're going to find that you tend to experience far more joy and contentment and freedom, no matter what the circumstances are around you. And unlike the temporary high resulting from psychological inflation, presence generates a joy, a happiness, a freedom that is real and sustainable and potentially permanent. To illustrate this more clearly, I want to carry on with an example we used earlier in the program. Imagine you just found out that you got scammed on a huge investment. You've lost everything. After getting that news, you go out to a restaurant to have dinner. And if you're totally present, if you're not stuck in your head, if you're not at the effect of myths and stories in the subconscious, you'll be able to find great joy in the moment as you have your dinner. Because the fact of the matter is, you still have enough money to buy food and put a roof over your head, at least for tonight. But most of us in that situation would be completely miserable. We would not be able to find joy in going out to eat dinner, because your mind would either be off in the future worrying about what's going to happen, or in the past beating yourself up over the mistakes you've made and this terrible thing that occurred. To make the point, let's take that same example and make it even more extreme. Let's say that because you lost all this money, it's going to lead you to be homeless. Maybe you get sick. Maybe you die on the street alone in pain with no one there to help you. In this example, let's assume that within 1 month of getting this terrible news, you're going to be evicted. You have nowhere to go. So you're going to end up homeless and then get sick and then die. Even in this kind of worst case scenario, if you're totally present, you could still experience high levels of happiness and joy, serenity, fulfillment during that last month, even up to the moment you take your last breath. But if you're stuck in the mind, if you're being run by the programs and stories and myths in your subconscious without awareness of what's really happening, you're probably going to be really miserable the whole time. And the idea here is beautifully summarized in what may be my all-time favorite quote. Mark Twain once said, "I've experienced many terrible things in my life, and a few of them actually happened." Pure genius, don't you think? So if you can look at your life and the world and tell yourself the whole truth and nothing but the truth, you'll find that much of the unhappiness you've experienced is a result of things that not only never happened, never will happen. Now, yeah, let's be fair and honest. Some of the things we worry about do come to pass. But most of us, most of the time, find that the vast majority of our unhappiness is caused by living in the past or the future, giving false meaning to our experiences. Quite simply, most of our unhappiness is a direct result of being stuck in the head. Now, if we want to take this one step further, the law of attraction tells us that what you resist will persist. That's one of the good teachings from the law of attraction. Absolutely correct. In this context, it means that the more you worry about a bad thing, the more likely it is to happen. And so the long and short of it, folks, is that the only real long-term universal solution to life's challenges and problems is simple presence. If you can find your way to live in the now, you're going to be a lot happier. You're going to experience genuine, sustainable happiness, as opposed to the occasional temporary high you get from psychological inflation. And there's all sorts of different religions and spiritual traditions, addiction recovery programs that all tell us that part of our process is to surrender to a higher power. The way I see it, they're kind of all saying the same thing in different ways. But I want to make another distinction here. Surrender is different than giving up. They are not the same things. Surrender is letting go to trust a higher power, having faith that there is a divine intelligence that's in control, even when things seem to be going straight to crap. And this distinction is beautifully presented in the Serenity Prayer from the 12-step programs, which goes something like this. God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. From another part of the world in a different culture, we have a lot of the teachings of Buddhism. They will tell us to release our attachment to result, which, by the way, I kind of see as exactly the same thing. And there's a whole list of synonyms for this same idea. We call it getting out of your head. We call it dropping in. We call it living in the now. We call it releasing attachment to result. We call it being present. We call it letting go. We call it surrendering to a higher power. And I think you're going to find at the end of the day, it's not that this is the only part of the path to happiness, but this is a really significant part of it. You can only get so far without it. This is part of the path to higher consciousness. And if you do a deep analysis of energy healing, even working the subconscious, it will lead you to understand that the result of clearing your subconscious beliefs and thereby eliminating all this automatic reflexive meaning your mind is giving to all the things that happen. The purpose of that ultimately is simply to make you more present. Why do we clear blocks? Simple, to make you more present. That subconscious block was learned in the past based on a different situation, a different context, oftentimes to different people. And as long as you're at the influence or effect of that old belief, you can't see clearly. You can't be present to what's happening now, because that block is pulling you to the past or the future. Now, of course, this is sometimes easier said than done. And it may take you years of work and study and practice to really master and fully embody this, Now, I'm not saying it's going to take you years to make progress. No. It's like learning to play guitar. You can learn something in a couple hours or a couple days for sure. But if you want to master that instrument, it's going to take a long time. It's going to take a lot of practice, a lot of feedback. And so higher consciousness is no different. This is not something you can do very well hiding in the back room on your own. There's some things you can do through that method, but again, it's very limiting. But this level of presence, of dropping in, of getting out of your head, of letting go, of releasing attachment, that's it. This is the grand prize. This is the holy grail. This is really the end of the road. I would go so far as to say that this increased level of presence is the ultimate goal of all religion and spiritual practices and self-improvement. In fact, we even have a special word for it, enlightenment. And I am both confident and hopeful that these discussions on the nature of happiness and freedom have given you insights that will allow you to experience more happiness every moment of every day for the rest of your life. But I want to be clear that learning the concepts will not always on its own change everything for you. Learning new things is great. It's a powerful and important step, but it's often only the first step. So by putting this new knowledge and information into your brain, you've started a journey to higher happiness. You really have. For some people, the knowledge alone may click and embody, and you'll see results. For others, you may need to work at the embodiment a little bit. And I'm confident that wherever you're at, these spiritual technologies within the Awakening Dynamic System and the other things you've learned, including the block clearing audios and the 7 Steps to Happiness, really can work to release your limiting and negative belief systems. They really can reprogram you from the inside out and change what you experience in life. Always remember, to really see a difference in your life, to experience a permanent, sustainable higher level of happiness, you have to make a choice to be happier every moment, every day, for the rest of your life, no matter what. Fortunately, this task is not as daunting as it may seem. Without advanced spiritual technology, it would be nearly impossible to just make a choice to be happy, especially when you got real problems in your life, right? You can't make your rent, you need medical care you can't afford, you got a difficult boss, or you problems with your kids or your spouse or whatever it may be, right? And so, of course, I'm not the only solution. I'm just one person among many, but I have dedicated my life to studying this stuff, and in particular, bringing the rigor of science and engineering to filter through a lot of the nonsense and come-ons and feel-good stuff that you find in the New Age world. I think you'll find it's relatively easy to permanently change your belief systems in an instant. In fact, you've already experienced that in the block clearing audios, haven't you? But just know that once we've shifted the beliefs, it does take time to repattern your brain and nervous system to create new habits and new ways of being, including happiness. So we can change the beliefs in a second. We can change hundreds of beliefs in a few hours. But to repattern your nervous system, to develop a new pattern that's automatic and effortless, does take some time. Scientific studies have shown it's usually somewhere between 30 to 90 days of frequent continuous effort to repattern your brain. The good news is, once you've changed the pattern, once the habit is embedded into your nervous system, it's pretty much automatic thereafter. So you don't have to be really vigilant about choosing happiness forever, just long enough and frequently enough to change your habitual thinking, to recode your nervous system to a new way of being. I say this because I want to tell you the truth. Just listening to the audios and the block clearings will make a difference in your life. I'll be really surprised if it doesn't. But there's so much more benefit available to you if you're willing to follow up and do the work. And if you're serious about being happier, you need to consistently make that choice to be happier, no matter what, for 90 days. That's simple, but maybe not easy. For some of you, if you're like I used to be, this may seem like an almost impossible monumental struggle. But if and when you succeed, and you will if you're willing to work at it, the question isn't if you can succeed, but will you give up before you get there? So when you succeed, you will have reconditioned your brain and nervous system, and you will be happier for the rest of your life without much further effort or work. So there is a chunk of effort and work up front, but then it becomes automatic, and then things get a lot easier. And along the way, you're likely to run into various sabotage mechanisms. Things will happen that will trigger you.
You may lose your job. You may crash your car. You may get sick. You may lose a loved one. That's all part of life. No one can promise that will never happen. But if you are aware of what's happening, if you can see through the emotion, apply the technologies, get support, get to the core, change your beliefs, choose happiness, it really does work. Now, I admit, I wish I had some kind of magic stick that I could just whack you with and make you instantly happy, maybe even enlightened. But it's usually not that simple. There is no magic stick like that. Just like there's no magic stick that you can whack someone with to make them a master guitar player or to make someone fluent in master a language. It sounds great, but with our current level of technology, that's fantasy. But what is real right now is a comprehensive system of spiritual technology that can support you and give you the guidance and tools you need to clear your negative and limiting beliefs, to release your trauma, to teach you the highest truths about life, the universe, yourself, the divine, God, and give you a set of powerful shortcuts to enlightenment. And with anything, you're going to have to apply it to see the big results. But of course, that's true of everything that's significant or important. If you want to learn to speak a language, downloading some software isn't enough. You need to find people that speak that language. You need to drill and practice. You need to get feedback. You need to get adjustment from teachers and mentors and experts. So practice and application is important to get the rest of the benefits. In fact, I've found that perhaps the most succinct definition of enlightenment is simply the total and complete embodiment of awakening, where awakening is nothing more than coming to a crystal clear understanding of the exact nature of you, the real you. And so this embodiment is important. This is what takes time. This is what takes practice and adjustments and expert feedback. An example would be like reading a spiritual book will put knowledge into your head, and that's great. I love spiritual books. A lot of them have given me really useful insights and ideas. But I remember when I started reading spiritual books back in the 90s, it gave me a nice warm feeling. It was good stuff, right? But then I'd get into my car and drive somewhere and be screaming at the person who cut me off. And so that's an example of knowledge that is not embodied. Another example could be learning to surf. You can go read a dozen books on surfing. You can learn all about the different boards and waves and intervals and different techniques of getting up and the different moves you can make. But none of that will actually make you surf. At some point, you've got to get aboard, get into the ocean, and try to catch a wave. And you're probably going to fall down a lot. And it'll probably help if you have a teacher or friend who can correct you and give you feedback, right? So that will be the same process here. Getting happier, full awakening, enlightenment is a journey. It's a journey, and we all need help. Some popular law of attraction material calls this process of embodiment the tennis match in your head. So your old belief systems, your old patterns, your old habits, they will fight like mad when you try to change them. This is why you're going to need not only powerful technology, but support from coaches or healers or a community. But the tennis match doesn't go on forever. There really is light at the end of the tunnel. This phenomena of how the brain gets repatterned, including for happiness, is beautifully illustrated in a scientific experiment that was done with astronauts in low Earth orbit. In the experiment, the astronauts were given special visors that turned their vision upside down. I mean, how crazy is that? Everything they looked at appeared upside down. Now, of course, it had to be done in space, because if you're on Earth, gravity would tell you which way is up and down. But in space, you don't have that reference point. And to cut a long story short, the result of the experiment was startling. If the astronauts kept their visors on all the time, then at some point, between 22 to 45 days, their brains would spontaneously rewire and their vision would correct, resulting in everything appearing right back again. But if they took off their visor during the period, the clock would reset. They'd be right back at day one of the process, and they'd have to start all over again. So just know that this is how it works, right? This is not just about astronauts on space stations. This is your life. Here's your takeaway. If you try to make a change in your level of happiness and you don't get the results you're looking for immediately, don't despair. Don't get too frustrated. There's nothing wrong with you. It doesn't mean that it can't work or won't work. It just means you may not have been consistent enough in your choice for greater happiness. Or maybe you just didn't do it for long enough. I know from my own life and from the experiences of thousands of my clients and students that this repatterning process really works. Yes, it can take time and effort or money. Well, some people can do it on their own. If you have the discipline and the willpower and the awareness, you may be able to do this on your own. But a lot of people don't. So you might need a healer, a coach, a good friend, someone to be there to support you, to call you out when you slip back into the old thinking. But it really works if you work it. And if you're willing to stick with the process until your nervous system changes, you really can be happier for the rest of your life. I want to give you a choice as we come to the end here. If you prefer to figure all this stuff out the hard way like I did, then you're more than welcome to struggle as much as you have to, suffer however much you need, years, decades, whatever. Well, of course, we're all a little different. My personal path involved years of horrible chronic pain, betrayal by my best friend, loss of many millions of dollars, not once, but twice, a divorce, multiple heartbreaks, bankruptcy, incurable injuries, depression, social anxiety, devastating migraine headaches. I even had cancer. Along the way, I spent over $500,000 on different healers and coaches and seminars and books and gurus and mystics and intensives and healing machines and experts of all various sorts before I was finally able to reverse engineer what they were doing and find the formula for real happiness. So heck, if you want to do it like I did, stop listening right now. Go do it. Go spend as long as you need. On the other hand, if you'd like to get more hints and shortcuts on your path to freedom, please say yes out loud to acknowledge you want more out of life and keep listening. So how do you embody what you've learned here? How do you embody these lessons? How do you live in the truth of the real you? How do you apply these 7 steps to happiness to your real life in a way that really works? Well, at the risk of sounding like a broken record, you gotta practice it. You gotta choose happiness over and over and over again until it embeds into your nervous system. Choosing happiness is like finding a new path through the woods. So let's imagine you live near a forest, and every day you have to go down to the river to get water. But there's only one path through the woods that you know about, but it's kind of a crappy path. There's a lot of briars and thorns. It's not very wide. You bump your head on branches, and it's a painful, difficult experience. But it's the only path you know, so you keep walking it. Then one day someone comes and says, "Hey, buddy, I'm going to show you a different way to get to the river." The trouble is there's no path. But they walk you through, and you find, wow, this way is better. So what happens? Well, guess what? The old path through the woods does not disappear immediately, does it? No. The new path, just because you walked it once or twice, is not burned into the ground the way the old path is. It may be hard to find at first. If you don't mark it, you may never see it again. But if you make a decision to walk the new path, every time you walk it, it gets easier to find the next time. And every day you don't walk the old path, it starts to grow over. And at some point, the new path will be well worn and obvious, very easy to find. And at some point, the old path will overgrow, and you won't be able to find it anymore. So your happiness is the same way. You've been walking a very difficult and painful path through the woods, and it's not your fault. It's the only path you knew. The new path isn't going to be clearly marked until you walk it enough times. And if you keep going back to the old path, you're only going to mark the old path more clearly. So you got to let go of the old path. You got to commit yourself to the new one, and that's choosing happiness. That's applying the lessons here. Choosing happiness all the time, every day, in every moment, no matter what. And so if you'd like to go deeper, to explore more, because this stuff really is just the tip of the iceberg. There's so much more to talk about and discuss and learn. I have several other encoded audio programs similar to this one. I have the 30 Days to Awakening program, which is designed to give you a step-by-step tutorial to fully wake you up. I have the End of Suffering program, which is really sort of 30 Days to Awakening Part 2. I have 2 downloadable programs all about prosperity. One is called Unleash Your Inner Millionaire. The other is The Formula for Wealth. Plus one on relationships called In Love for a Lifetime. These programs are kind of a done-for-you approach. They're all full of lectures and presentations just like this one, plus encoded block clearing programs that you can clear your subconscious just by listening. So that's a wonderful start. That can take you a long way. But at some point, you're going to have to grow past that. And if you're ready for faster transformation, I also have some availability for private sessions, though I may not by the time you listen to this. You can contact me and find out. Otherwise, I have some amazing students who can work with you one-on-one. I have a whole series of Awakening Dynamics live intensives. Start with just the first one. Don't worry about the rest. At minimum, I would encourage you, if you haven't yet, go register for the free Healathon. That's so important because in the live events like the Healathon or the weekend intensives, there's a lot I can do with you interactively that I cannot encode onto a program, especially the advanced work, the quantum field entrainment to open up your ability to see energy and auras and read people's code with your open eyes, to dissolve pain, to learn how to do movement feedback holography, to make enormous fast breakthroughs with the subconscious that's even faster and more powerful than what you got here. So I don't want to spend a lot of time talking about it. Just get yourself to the Healathon, and I want you to experience this for yourself. Don't take my word for it. Come see for yourself and have your own experience. You're also going to want to join a community at some point. I mentioned earlier that you cannot really do this entirely on your own, hiding in the back room. You're welcome to try. I tried that for a while. But you need to have a supportive community. You need to be around like-minded people who believe in this, who really apply this work and see real results in their life. And for those looking to work at the highest levels, I also have an Awakening Intensive Mastermind, but that's not something you can just go register for. You have to be invited to that. So let's summarize all the things you've learned in this program. First of all, you need to choose happiness. And if you're not sure why, go listen to all these lectures again, right? Secondly, you need to clear your subconscious. You need to work both the conscious mind and the subconscious mind to reset your happiness thermostat to a higher level for the whole rest of your life. And if I were to give you one line to summarize what you need to know right now and moving forward to be happier, it's this. Happiness isn't really about getting what you want. Happiness is really about wanting what you get. So that's all I got to say for right now. I hope you got a lot of benefit and value out of 7 Steps to Happiness. I do encourage you to review the lecture presentation programs as many times as you need until it all makes sense and clicks in your mind. On the other hand, the block clearings, once you're clear on all the blocks and downloads, you're good. No need to repeat those. And I would love to see you in my free Healathon webinar, or maybe at one of my weekend intensives, or perhaps even in the Awakening Intensive Mastermind. This is Brent Michael Phillips signing out of our last lecture presentation for 7 Steps to Happiness. Goodbye, take care, and namaste.
I am Brent Michael Phillips signing off. We got lots more cool videos in this series I know you're going to love. I know they're going to blow your mind. So click like, click subscribe, check out the playlist, and I will see you on the other side. Until then, take care and namaste.